up on YouTube all the time. If you're interested in spirituality, her videos usually pop up all over the place. And I'm not a big fan of Teal Swan. Um, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm a fan of Eckhart Tolle, Mooji, Ramana Maharshi, the kind of non-duality teachers. I'm not even a fan of Rupert Spira because I don't believe he is as deeply profoundly awakened as he claims to be or as he teaches. I just don't sense with him the kind of deeper restfulness and peacefulness that comes with awakening. And Teal Swan is completely different. I'm not a big fan of hers, and I will try to outline why. The first thing that comes to my mind is that she talks in kind of like a binary fashion, in the sense like she will talk about absolute truth. What So she will say something in the form as if it were absolute truth. She never says it could be like that or it's possible. It's like she's always like that's how it is. But when you are yourself an energy healer or you know how things are in a lot of times, you realize that many things she talks about are not really true. They're causalities that are not necessarily true and they're not really that way. But from her perspective and the way she talks about it, and this is a very interesting psychological phenomenon, is that if you speak with absolute conviction, if you speak with absolute conviction about an absolute truth in spirituality, then the receiving party deems it to be true. And this is super interesting. And the interesting also thing about spirituality as well as religion is it's extremely uh expandable. You can stretch it. You can stretch it and it still remains true. Whereas in math, you can't really do that. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. I mean, there's some people trying to change that, but we all know 1 plus 1 is 2. In spirituality, you don't have that. So everybody, even the biggest idiots, can talk about spirituality. And if they sell it well enough, it seems to be true. And I feel from my side that Teal Swan is too often wrong about things, although she speaks it with such a conviction that people just instantly believe it to be true. Um, for example, I give you one example. She posted a video, it's a short video, where she said, when somebody says they need their own space and private time, that it doesn't include other people, that it doesn't include dogs in this or cats or pets, in the sense like you don't need private time with your pets because you can be the way you truly are with your pets. No, that's not the reason. See, this is wrong causality. You're like, if you hear this, it's like if you say I need some private time, some space, then you are excluding people usually from that. You don't want, my English today is not so good. You don't want the time with other people, but you want, if a pet is there, it's okay. And Teal Swan says it's because you can be yourself with your pet. That's not it. The real reason why you're okay with pets is because they don't talk. That's the only reason. If you had someone around you, a person that didn't talk, you would be okay with them being in the room. If they were super quiet and just sitting in the room, let's say in the other part of the room, you would be okay with it. And Teal Swan says it's because you can be your authentic self And that's wrong causality. See, the only reason why you're with pets, the only reason why people have pets is because they don't talk. Because if pets would talk, they would be so fucking annoying. And a lot of people don't see these very basic things, so they're easily sold on wrong spiritual information. This is just one example. I just wanted to give one example where teal swan is completely wrong. And if you don't have the ability to see the whole spectrum of spirituality, if you're just like a knee-jerk spiritualist, then or you are just an armchair spiritualist and you don't really understand spirituality on a deep level, you're easily sold on this bullshit. And that's what I don't like about Teal Swan. I find her so I'm trying to it even angers me a little bit. And the reason it angers me is because I hate people. I seriously hate people. I do have a problem with people who are convinced about absolute truth, speak it with absolute truth to people when in reality it's not the truth. This is something that I've had since childhood. I'm very very attuned to high spiritual truth, and I get triggered immensely by people speaking falsehoods in the spiritual realm. And it's super easy to do that. There's so many people who do that. It's now it's become so trendy that you have all these yoga teachers and coaches and everybody spewing spiritual, trying to spew spiritual wisdom, but it's not really spiritual wisdom. It's just a need to be. I would even go so far, and this is what, there's been like a documentary about Teal Swan where she's being portrayed as a narcissist. I would go so far as I think that she is really a narcissist. And I think that a lot of people become healers and teachers because they need the validation from the outside. And her speaking so absolute truthy, and there's no other truth than what she's saying. I could, pick a tons of subjects from her. I don't listen to her too much, so I don't know everything. But I could pick a tons of you could pick any subject and I could literally like dissect it and tell you and show you that she's wrong. Like tons of them. Is that if she were a small YouTuber or a small influencer, I wouldn't care. But what I dislike about it is that she has the ability to reach so many people and she's spewing so much nonsense. Now, if you reach a lot of people and you speak only about spiritual subjects, of course, you're going to also touch people who will be positively affected. But it's still not the real spiritual truth. It's not often it's very often not the way that things really are. For example, I give you another example. She says that she talks about containment, right? That the masculine containment, that a woman should be contained by the masculine energy for men to be attractive. This couldn't be further from the truth. You see, a woman doesn't want to be contained by masculine energy. You could almost say it's actually the opposite. A woman wants the ability for masculine energy to be at her disposal. Big difference. Containment. Hi, Oscar. So there's something called resource movement, which I call in my free book, by the way, Gold Pill. It's in my goldpill.me book. It's completely free. You can download it. It's PDF. Um, The book is gonna get better. I just started basically, but one of the things I talk about is the resource mover. The resource mover. Oh, I see. You're probably being sarcastic or whatever, or ironic, but I don't care. Um, the resource mover is someone who has the ability to move around resources. To I'm looking for the English word. To And that's the thing, people are so stupid that they're not even ready to listen to what I have to say. They just go with what the status quo is. They just like the short sound bites. They don't really want to know the truth. Um and instead of going in with me into a conversation, let's say a podcast, and really dissecting these things, I would be super open to have a podcast with Teal Swan if she doesn't toxic metaframe me. But see, there's something called the resource mover, and the resource mover is a man who has the ability to move resources. Resources can be anything. They can be money, they can be ability to make decisions, the ability to drive very well cars, for example. There's the ability to move around resources. And that ability to move around resources is highly attractive to women. Because, for one simple reason, because when women become pregnant, they need to rely on a man. They need to have the ability to rely on a man for those resources. Say, say, I'm hearing a dog. Say, I just hear him like, it's funny. Um, say, I don't know, my English is today is not so good. Maybe it'll get better today. Um, say a woman gets pregnant and the child has some trouble and you need to go to the hospital. A guy who doesn't know how to drive or has fear of driving or doesn't have a car, he's just not going to be that attractive in general because he cannot move the resource. He cannot go and take the child and the woman to the hospital. So they would need to take a bus or an Uber or a taxi or whatever. And so he instantly loses attraction. And once you understand that, you know how to be attractive to a woman. Once you understand resource movement ability and signaling of those resource movement abilities, then you instantly become attracted to women, to basically all women. And containment is a form of, let me try to, if I can get the idea about containment the way says it. It's, let's just say it this way. Does a woman prefer a resource mover or a container? Would she prefer somebody who contains her with masculine energy but is not able to be a resource mover? Or would she prefer a resource mover that is not able to contain her? Answer the question yourself, and you will find out that she just wants the resource mover. That's why women have sex with men just because they're resource movers, even though they're not promising a relationship. And that's just the nature of things, that's biology. So it makes no sense trying to contain a woman with your masculine energy if you don't have resource movement ability. But it makes sense to have resource movement ability and not try to contain the woman. I know what she means by containment, by the way. It's not possessiveness, it's like protection. But protection is actually a resource movement ability. So this is another example how Teal Swan is wrong because she doesn't dive deep enough. And there's so many examples of that. And you need a high intelligence to understand what I'm talking about. Most people will not understand it. So instead of insulting me and saying and being ironic or sarcastic with me, go into conversation with me and you will realize that I'm right about these things. That's why, yes, I know.